Namaskar and good evening. I'm Maitreyee Chakraborty and today I present a video project titled East Meets West, Tagore and Emerson. Ralph Waldo Emerson was born in Massachusetts, United States, and has been recognized as the poet, philosopher, and the father of American literature. Rabindranath Tagore was born in Bengal, India, and like Emerson, is recognized as the most iconic poet-philosopher in India. Now here is an interesting dissimilarity. Emerson graduated from Harvard when he was 14, and Tagore never finished school. Emerson was born in the US some 80 years before Tagore was born in India. Interestingly, these two stalwart writer-philosophers were connected to each other by a strong ideological concept. And this ideology revolutionized the literary landscape in both countries. And actually, come to think of it, this ideology taught readers like me to look at the world and our existence in a meaningful way. This ideology is the topic of my discussion in this video and how these poets connect. Let me start by briefly introducing all of you to Rabindranath Tagore, the Bengali poet, writer, and humanist of India, who wrote in the language Bengali, and it's the language I speak. So Tagore was born in Jorashako, Kolkata, India in 1861 to a progressive family in a then largely conservative society. On the screen, you are seeing Tagore's birth home that has been later converted into a museum. Tagore grew up in this progressive, culturally rich family, started writing and composing songs when he was 15, and continued until he passed away at 80. He wrote prolifically on myriad topics like love, spiritualism, nature, and the beauty of human life, to name a few. He wrote 12 novels, more than 50 plays, about 200 short stories, 50-odd volumes of poetry, and wrote and composed 2,000 songs. His poems inspired the national anthems of 3 countries, India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. At 67, he also took up painting and left behind some 2,500 paintings and drawings. In a span of 20 years, he visited 34 countries, including the US, on public speaking engagements. During these tours, he inspired, bewildered, provoked debate and some controversy as well. And along the way, in 1913, he became the first non-European to win the Nobel Prize. If you ask me and any Bengali friends around the world, we will all solemnly agree on this. Rabindranath Tagore was solely responsible for infusing elegance and beauty into the Bengali language, and the writer since his time has been constantly trying to fill his shoes. Now let's talk about Ralph Waldo Emerson. Emerson was born in Boston in 1803, and he lost his father when he was just 8 years old. Emerson was born to a preacher who descended from a line of New England ministers who practiced Puritanism. Emerson went to Harvard and then to Harvard Divinity School to become a minister. He was ordained as a priest at the Second Church of Boston, but he decided to quit soon afterwards because he was unhappy with the formality and orthodoxy. He traveled to Europe to think and reflect, and during his experience there, he had an epiphany, which later germinated into a philosophical idea. It's interesting what he wrote in his journal then, and I quote, "I feel the centipede in me, the cayman, carp, eagle, and fox. I'm moved by strange sympathies. I say continually, I will be a naturalist." End quote. In other words, Emerson held the belief that nature is not only outside us but within us. He declared that our connection to the divine can only happen by perceiving nature in its entirety. And this was the main crux of the Transcendentalist movement, which took America by storm. I want to give you a general idea of the Transcendentalist philosophy without going into too much details. So, Transcendentalism, also known popularly as the American Transcendentalism, was born right here in the New England area in the mid 19th century, and Emerson took the leadership role. And it was a philosophical movement that started as a protest against the cultural and the religion and the religious orthodoxy that was the norm then. And Transcendentalist ideas also had its roots in the philosophy of the German thinkers like Kant, and also in the ancient Hindu scriptures, the Vedas and the Upanishads. So Emerson's idea of the freedom of humanity, which is actually one of the integral elements in Transcendentalism, is so parallel to the philosophy expressed in the scriptures of ancient India that I'm tempted to quote a few lines from the Upanishad. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrittur ma amritam gamaya. Loosely translated as, lead us from ignorance to knowledge, from darkness to light, and from death to deathlessness. And this is where Tagore comes in. Tagore's poems and songs were deeply influenced in the Vedantic philosophy as well as the Western Transcendentalist thoughts. And from this point on, my discussions on Tagore will center around the songs which reflected those thoughts. And I will draw a parallel with the essay that Emerson wrote in 1836. And that essay is quite famous. It's called Nature. And I will be using some quotes from it. The essay talks about worshipping, exploring, and loving nature by drowning one's ego, which in turn leads one to love the divine. Emerson writes, and I quote, "Standing on the bare ground, my head bathed by the blithe air and uplifted into infinite space, all mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I'm nothing. I see all. The currents of the universal being circulate through me. I'm part or parcel of God." I find an amazing parallel to a particular song composition by Tagore, in which he talks about freedom from his own ego as he internalizes nature and becomes one with it. The vastness of the universe portrayed in this song never ceases to amaze me. I will sing the song in Bengali and you will see translations on the screen. Hope you enjoy it. Amar mukti aloe aloe e akashe amar mukti aloe aloe.
সর্বজনের মনের মাঝে দুঃখ বিপদ তুচ্ছ করা কঠিন কাজে আমার মুক্তি সর্বজনের মনের মাঝে দুঃখ বিপদ তুচ্ছ করা কঠিন কাজে বিশ্বধাতার যজ্ঞশালা আত্মহোমের বহ্নি জ্বালা বিশ্বধাতার যজ্ঞশালা আত্মহোমের বহ্নি জ্বালা জীবন যেন দিয়াহুতি মুক্তি আসে এই আকাশে আমার মুক্তি আলোয় আলোয় এই আকাশে আমার মুক্তি আলোয় আলোয়।
Emerson also wrote the following beautiful lines, and I quote: "To the attentive eye, each moment of the year has its own beauty, and in the same field it beholds every hour a picture which was never seen before and which shall never be seen again." End quote. In other words, when our minds are not burdened with preconceived notions, when our mental landscape has that childlike innocence, we are able to detect and enjoy small but significant differences in the landscape outside. And it could be the same landscape that we see every day. And this reminds me of another favorite song composition of Tagore, in which he talks about moonlight. And he talks about moonlight with such exuberance, such colorful metaphors. It seems as if it's the first time he's witnessing moonlight. And just for your information, he composed this song when he was 68. And I hope you experience that exuberance and that delight that Tagore experienced when you listen to the song next.
তোমার গন্ধ সুধা ঢালো চাঁদের হাসির বাঁধ ভেঙেছে চাঁদের হাসির বাঁধ ভেঙেছে উছলে পড়ে পাগল হওয়া তোমার গন্ধ সুধা ঢালো চাঁদের হাসির বাঁধ ভেঙেছে নীল গগনের ললাট খানি চন্দনে আজ মাখা বাণী বনের হংস মিথুন মেলেছে আজ পাখা নীল গগনের ললাট খানি চন্দনে আজ মাখা বাণী বনের অংশ মিথুন মেলেছে আজ পাখা পারিজাতের কেশর ধরায় শশী ছড়াও কি পারিজাতের কেশর ধরায় শশী ছড়াও কি ইন্দ্রপুরীর কোন রমণী বাসর প্রদীপ জালো ও রজনী গন্ধা তোমার গন্ধ সুধা ঢালো চাঁদের হাসির বাঁধ ভেঙেছে চাঁদের হাসির বাঁধ ভেঙেছে চাঁদের হাসির বাঁধ ভেঙেছে
Emerson says, and I quote, "Crossing a bare common in snow puddles at twilight, under a clouded sky, without having in my thoughts any occurrence of special good fortune, I have enjoyed a perfect exhilaration. I am glad to the brink of fear." End quote. Isn't it intriguing to read the last line? Glad to the brink of fear. His ecstasy is so heightened that he's fearful of the emotion. In his songs on nature, Tagore's exhilaration with nature attains heights similar to that of Emerson. When I sing them, they transport me to moments that I experienced but I never could verbalize. So my next song talks about our connection with the universe and our perpetual state of awe with nature. Enjoy.
আকাশ ভরা সূর্য তারা বিশ্ব ভরা প্রাণ তাহারি মাঝখানে আমি পেয়েছি মোর স্থান বিষয়ে তাই জাগে অসীম কালে যে হিল্লোলে জোয়ার ভাটায় ভুবন দোলে নাড়িতে মোর রক্ত ধারায় লেগেছে তার টান বিস্ময়ে তাই জাগে জাগে আমার গান আকাশ ভরা। ঘাসে ঘাসে পা ফেলেছি বনের পথে যেতে ফুলের গন্ধে চমক লেগে উঠেছে মন মেতে ছড়িয়ে আছে আনন্দেরই দান বিস্ময়ে তাই জাগে জাগে আমার গান কান পেতেছি চোখ মেলেছি ধরার বুকে প্রাণ ঢেলেছি জানার মাঝে অজানারে করেছি সন্ধান বিস্ময়ে তাই জাগে জাগে আমার গান আকাশ ভরা।
Emerson was a pantheist. He declared that God is omnipresent. He developed the concept of the oversoul or the Paramatma, and that each one of us is a microcosm of that Paramatma. Paramatma is a Indian parallel to the concept of oversoul. This thought is so beautifully expressed in these lines. Emerson wrote, and I quote, "I see the spectacle of morning from the hilltop over against my house, from daybreak to sunrise, with emotions which an angel might share. The long, slender bars of cloud float like fishes in the sea of crimson light. From the earth as a shore, I look out into that silent sea. I seem to partake its rapid transformations. The active enchantment reaches my dust, and I dilate and conspire with the morning wind." I truly cannot get over how magnificent that quote was. I read it over and over, and I just cannot get over it. And to match it, here is a song composed by Tagore portraying the same emotion of sublime silence. A silence one feels when one is in tune with the oversoul or Paramatma. The poignant silence is laden with unspoken ecstasy. Hope you enjoy the next song.
রাত্রি সে যেথায় মেশে দিনের পারাবারে তোমায় আমায় দেখা হলো
was indeed my pleasure and privilege to present this video to you. I thank you, the audience, and the cultural councils for supporting me on this. I have to tell you, while working on this project, I just could not get over the fact that this American literary renaissance started right here in my backyard, in my neighboring city of Concord. That's an amazing feeling. And the fact that this philosophy not only influenced the transcendentalists of the New England area, but also a great poet like Rabindranath Tagore and political leaders around the world like Mahatma Gandhi, Cesar Chavez, and of course, Martin Luther King. And they adopted nonviolence as a tool for fighting injustice. I've come to the end of my presentation, and if you have questions, please do write them in the comment box and I'll try my best to answer them. I'm tempted to end this video by reading a poem from Tagore's Gitanjali, a collection of poems for which he won the Nobel Prize. So the poem that I'll be reading, I think, embodies transcendentalism. It intertwines Anandam, or the concept of bliss, for the transitory moments of human lives, with nature's beauty and the sweet promise of the divine. And so I will read the poem in the original language, Bengali, and you will see the translations on the screen. I hope you enjoyed the presentation and I hope you enjoyed the poem. আমার এই পথ চাওয়াতেই আনন্দ, আমার এই পথ চাওয়াতেই আনন্দ, খেলে যায় রৌদ্র ছায়া বর্ষা, আসে বসন্ত, কারাই সম্মুখ দিয়ে আসে যায় খবর নিয়ে খুশিরই আপন মনে, বাতাস বহে সুমন্দ। সারাদিন আঁখি মেলে দুয়ারে রব একা, শুভক্ষণ হঠাৎ এলে তখনই পাবো দেখা। ততক্ষণ ক্ষণে ক্ষণে হাসি গাই আপন মনে, ততক্ষণ রহি রহি ভেসে আসে সুগন্ধ, আমার এই পথ চাওয়াতেই আনন্দ।